We are live now. So,
Hi.
I'm just happy to announce our next presenter, Ms. Carol, founder CEO of TCFWA, TCF Australia, TCF Global, Belmont. Ms. Carol has been acknowledged for her small business achievements with local, state, and national awards since 1970s as owner or designer of her own fashion manufacturing, wholesale, retail, and export business for 20 years. Since 1994, Carol has established a non-profit community organization in WA, Belmont Business Enterprise Centre, and Textile Clothing Footwear Resource Centre, Western Australia in 1998. Today, Ms. Carol will be presenting on fashion sustainability, responsible design, consumption, and the SDGs. Over to you, Ms. Carol.
Thank you and welcome everybody, and thank you very much to Recommerce for putting on this your conference today on the very valuable topic of sustainable clothing and textile recycling. Okay, just to give you, even though you've had a little bit of background, yes, I had a label for 20 years, my own fashion label, operating across Australia and exporting overseas. But it's important for all of your attendees that I actually was designing and buying in India in 1972-73. So maybe some of your attendees were not even born there yet. But for 50 years, I've been involved in the fashion, textile, or advisory sector in some way. You mentioned my not-for-profit that I started 23 years ago. This one has a focus on the fashion, textile, creative, and TCF sector. TCF standing for Textiles, Clothing and Footwear. And over those years, we've assisted some 7,000 designers and specialising in the area of fashion business, online training and mentoring. So it's a virtual fashion incubator. And I also have run previous international fashion incubator conferences and link with most of the incubators around the world that help emerging designers grow and develop their labels. Now, my passion for a long time, since these were released, the UN Global Sustainable Development Goals, there's 17 goals, and these SDGs is what the acronym is used for. All member states belonging to the United Nations have signed up to these global goals. So this is a very positive thing for everybody in business and industry and all those at this conference today, that you already have a marketplace of the world that is focusing on these 17 goals. So if you're looking for niche sectors or you're looking for opportunities, this is what you need to be concentrating on, the Sustainable Development Goals. For those that are unaware, the TCF sector is the second most polluting industry in the world. Now, that's a shock to a lot of people, and especially to your end customer when they hear that. And in many of the stories and programs being promoted about the TCF sector, I'll run through some main areas that give you a highlight of how you, in your own family, your business and your community can play their part in the SDGs of the goals to reduce waste and become sustainable. Because even though you're involved in the industry, you're also a consumer. And one of the problems we have around the world is the consumer is not has to act and take action to make cultural change with their purchases, and you as the industry that is creating product have to make change as well, because this is a holistic problem. Water use in the textile industry addresses SDG 6. For those, I'll give you a slide very shortly, and you do have a great textile printing network in Jaipur that the Blue Group, that has a sustainable printing collective of 17 firms that I've actually seen. Insecticides and cotton production, SDG 13. For those who are unaware, about 25% of the world's insecticides is used in production of cotton. Chemical use in textiles addresses SDG 13. Many countries of the world have introduced bans on certain textiles in their production. Many have labels that say no harmful chemicals are in this textile that must be attached, like the EU. And if we look at apparel labelling, this will get stricter and stricter of what is the content of labelling, and besides just the country of origin, which is the law in Australia. Ethical fashion and accreditation, SDGA, is actually going to be the future of your industry. So it's face it or else face extinction, because the world is changing and the industry has to change to match what the consumer is wanting, and the buyers are the retailers as well. One of the problems in this sector has been the fast and slow fashion, because the consumer has chosen fast, disposable fashion over slow. But this can be changed back when there is more education from the industry to the consumer. Apparel disposal has become a major pollution of the world. You may be shocked to hear that in the Western countries such as UK and USA, some 34 pounds of apparel is disposed of per person per year, per adult person per year, to waste. So there is huge issues if you multiply that of what needs to be solved. And how can this be solved? It can only be solved through the circular supply chains. And that means that we actually, whatever is grown, whatever is produced, is recycled back in some way to be made back into product again. So the circular economy is the future. So changing slides to a more sustainable circular economy. If we just catch up the slides that haven't been changed, I mentioned my background. Next slide, my Fashion Incubator Network. The Sustainable Development Goals I mentioned. Also, next slide. These are the points that I ran through just before. Water usage, and now reusing all that we use. This has to be the future. It will be the future, and it's time to join this and to understand how you can play your part as a consumer and your family in your business and your community. Next slide. So sustainability, and I congratulate our previous speaker, Mr. Ashok. He was very on target with what he was saying, that the sustainability is society, economy, and environment all have to work together. The next slide. So getting a hang of the word sustainability is multifaceted, and it has different meanings to different people. The next, and that is that it's not just the environmental issue. It's also ethical, social justice, fair trade, and economic fairness. And these are the parts that the world is focusing on now. And transparent supply chains. are the areas that you need to know that your business is under the microscope. Your business can no longer not be accountable for its accreditation, its eco audits, and its certification in regards to waste, pollution, and also to unhealthy practices that are suffered by your employees or else the community where your business operates from. So this is now a global change sweeping the world. Next slide. This was a photo that I took in the window of the University of in the UK, London College of the Arts, where in 2009 they were highlighting that it takes 5,000 pints of water to make one T-shirt when 5,000 children die a day from the lack of clean drinking water. So this is something that hits home the next time you decide to have a protest or have a slogan with a throwaway mentality of T-shirts, that 5,000 pints of water to make one T-shirt. Next slide. In 2012, for 3 years, we delivered across Australia for the Australian government a project on energy efficiency and in regards to the TCF sector. And through this project and all of the thousands of TCF firms that participated in this, small businesses, next slide, some of the realities of what is came to light was that the upstream and downstream of energy usage in the TCF sector and how makers such as fashion garments, between 40 and 60% of the company's carbon footprint resides in the upstream of its supply chain. And you as a manufacturer, example for your end users' energy use, can make such a difference just by labeling, can this be washed in cold water, so that the consumer does not use energy to wash their garments. But more importantly, because you're in India and you're an export country, look at the packaging, look at the over packaging, I should say. Look at the transporting that you can save in energy use. Next slide, please. Statistical research that was gathered showed that most businesses can save between 25 and 40% in their energy use. Now that is a lot of power, which actually, when you start practicing energy efficiency practices, saves money and also saves the environment and the energy. Now, all of our range of webinars, fact sheets, we still provide available at no cost for anyone who would like to request those. They can access them. But so a retailer could save 59% through the cooling and heating. An office, simply by practicing energy efficiency, could lower their costs by 35%. And a factory or warehouse, 45%. This is a huge saving to the business, but a huge saving to the environment. Next slide. So we go back to you thinking about what I mentioned before. These are the main points of the sector that you all operate in, that you can make a difference in upstream or downstream of energy consumption. And that leads to the improvement in the environment and sustainable in the whole holistic approach to this particular sector. Now, I've discussed the main points there, but I added one extra in this regarding better quality and less waste. I speak at a lot of Indian association conferences online, and I'm always highlighting the focus about providing quality, improving quality, and that will then lead to less waste. To have a mentality that your business become known as a manufacturer of quality can be a badge of pride that I would like to encourage everyone listening to this webinar has a focus on, because when products are incorrect, they're disposed of. If their quality is poor, they're disposed of, and that will create less waste. And the TCF circular supply chains. What can you do in your business to alleviate waste and for everything to be used in a better way? Now, technology is moving very quickly in regards to the recycling of fibres, but those plants that have been introduced already are still quite expensive, and they're only operating in certain countries on trials at the moment. So those pulping, the pulping of fibres is much simpler when it's a natural fibre, but the extraction of mixed fibres and the extraction of the dyes is more complicated. It is being conquered, but it's a slow process. But where it's heading in that direction, but India can make a big difference. You saw the presentation from Mr. Ashok of giving examples of just silk. Mixed cotton and polyesters is synthetic fibres is more difficult for extraction and pulping. Next slide, please. This is an example from next slide. This is an example from a manufacturer. Previous slide, please. This is an example, previous slide. This was an example, the Dreams, next slide. Dreams Made of Fabric is a project that was created by De Facto. This is a company from Turkey that's in 30 countries, there's 500 or 600 stores, and they use their leftover surplus fabrics to help the girls in their local schools create projects or product for then they're then donated with the proceeds for children with cancer. So think about what are the school projects in your area that your factory can donate leftover or surplus fabrics to, that can, one, give the students of a local school an opportunity to learn skills in the TCF sector, and two, that the end product can help raise funds in the community or for those in need. Next slide. They also took this project for a Happy Women movement, and this is Turkey again, and creating product with the leftover textiles from their large-scale production. So that's an example. Here I'll move on to another example of where you can support local use. Next slide, please. This is a project for called Days for Girls. It's an international project. It helps provide female sanitary products to girls in schools and women around the world who have issues or low income, to provide for sanitary products. And it's made from cotton products. And it's certainly something that it is certainly a project that I can connect you with this charity, that you can find the sewing groups in India that you can give surplus cotton fabrics to become part of this global growing network that to date has delivered over 2 million kits to girls in need or women in need around the world. Next slide. If you, next, okay. For those, I'm waiting for the slide to come up. For if you were a baby boomer, that means born in after mid 40s. I think the slides disappeared, but we'll press on. If you were born in the mid 40s or towards the 60s, you are called a baby boomer. It's quite likely that your parents is born in the generation before. Chelsea, do you have my slides, please?
Just a minute, Carol. I'm just facing a network issue. Just a minute. You carry on. I'll
Okay, so
just display your slides.
your parents, went through the Second World War or the Depression in the in the 30s, grew up with this mentality. Anyone who's a baby boomer also grew up with this mentality because of their very stoic mother, of being taught to make do and mend. And the whole of the world was focusing on make do because there was such a shortage of resources with the global wars happening. So the attitude back then in the 40s era was use it up, wear it out, make do and mend. From saving paper, from saving oils, from saving metal, from saving bones. Now, I've visited India many, many times, and you are at the forefront of using every inch of anything that is produced for the benefit of others. So India is actually in a prize position to take advantage of this new mentality of the world of has it been recycled, has it been reused, has it been upscaled. I'm sure when we get these slides back, you'll see very quickly these are original pictures from the 1940s of what I'm referring to. Moving on.
Yeah,
Yes.
by the meantime, if the delegates have any questions, you can just raise your questions. So Ms. Carol.
Okay, so moving on. I'm not sure how many people in attendance are designers and how many are textile manufacturers, but it's the designers that can make a difference. If the designers make a difference because they're selecting the textiles from the manufacturers. And okay, so someone sent me a question regarding percentage of insecticides used in textile production. That percentage I gave was actually cotton production. And the statistics at the time that I received this research was that 25% of the world's insecticides was being used in cotton production. So we're not talking about other textiles, we're just talking cotton. Okay. Any other questions? I'll answer them as we go. Not baby boomer, but still a mender of my clothes. Very good. That's the world now. You're a leader. If you're mending your clothes, then you are in the right space of the trend, because what's old new is new again. So what I would like to share is that designers set the trend and can make a difference by the textiles that they use in their products. Designers are influenced by the consumer, and the consumer influences the retailer that buys from the designer. So this is a supply chain. It's very, very simple. It's just a supply chain. but somebody has to make the change. So the fact that Recommerce is running this conference is great, and Green Waves and Coates and everybody who's supporting this conference. Circular supply chains is the only way this industry can survive in the future. And going back to, it's a pity my slides have not come back up, but designers make the difference. The trends at the moment, and will continue, this is not going away, is fashion is a cycle, the circular supply chains, reuse, remake, recycle, especially the traditions. And Mr. Ashok mentioned this about wedding saris. People are after product, and there's a global demand for this. People are after product with a story to tell. So you in India have a lot of stories to tell about the artisan production of textiles, the history of textiles and the weaves that can be reused and repurposed, upscaled, whatever you want to use in the trend terms. But artisan and creativity and innovation is the future of this sector. And the area that you can also make a huge difference is women's empowerment. I give forums every year normally in New York, but this time it was online, for the United Nations Commission for the Status of Women on women's empowerment. Now, women's empowerment in India, you have such enormous opportunity to create social enterprises of women's empowerment in the creative sector, of artisans and creativity with the textiles industry, manufacturers and designers working together to provide enormous opportunity for economic empowerment. My next slide, just to finish off, is to remind everybody of the Sustainable Development Goals. And some people are asking me for my email ID, which is on the last page of the slides. But I'm sure if you contact the organizer, she will give you or you can find me on and in many platforms, give you my ID.
Yes, Ms. Carol.
Is the slide
I'll just pass on your email IDs here. No, actually, I'm facing a tower. I'm facing some network issue.
Okay, so someone else has asked me if there are any standards and certifications for sustainability standards. I'm confused when various brands asking us to implement different norms. Now, if there's time, I will address this question, because you are correct that you're confused that when various brands asking. The issue of accreditation and transparency of what retailers or brands are asking for has become a global business within itself. There is a multitude of organizations that have developed these standards, and even the industry itself is trying to agree on reducing the amount of accreditation labeling and brand things to make it easier for factories to comply with. So you need to understand which are the global ones, which are the ones, like if you're in organic cottons or GOTS, if you're in responsible apparel production, then maybe wraps. We have webinars on some of these topics, but I'm sure the Ministry of Textiles and your Recommerce can give every attendee a very clear index or dictionary on the amount of certifications or standards that you need to comply with. It is confusing, but it will get easier as the global industry associations and the brands come to terms with this has become a problem in itself. So, but to protect your business,
Carol,
yes.
yeah, Ms. Carol, Rajesh has another question also. Is there any common platform to present our standards?
Well, you want the magic word. Okay, this is a commercial industry that has developed as a result of the TCF sector and the retail, the buyer demanding accreditation and transparency and all of the other labeling. I suggest you look at Ecotech. I suggest you look at the long-time firms involved in this sector who have got many years background. GOTS is the Textile Organic Accreditation. Look at RAPS. Look at RAPAS, Worldwide Responsible Apparel Production. Look at the Ecotech. The firms that have been around a long time have the recognized symbols. But your Ministry of Textiles and you should be able to provide what is a dictionary to help firms develop that. We have webinars on sustainable, understanding the sustainable TCF industry. But as I said, firms are starting, and creating their own branding to get other people to sign up and pay the fees. So you need to be streetwise in working out what you need to do to satisfy your buyer. Now, if you deal with multiple buyers from multiple countries, you may be requested with all sorts of various, do you have this? Do you have this label? Do you have this accreditation? So you need to be proactive and streetwise to work out what it is they're asking you for and what do you already have and what is acceptable, and take those concerns to your industry association or to the Ministry of Textile. And I've got another question because everybody have their imaginations about sustainability. Yes, they do, and that's why I tried to point out that it's multifaceted, especially because if you're dealing with a business that's on the stock exchange, if you're dealing with big businesses, that their business is also involved with ethical issues, social justice, fair trade, and economic fairness, like a living wage, besides the environment. So this now needs you, or the owner of the business, or you, if you're the sustainability officer in the company you belong to, realizing that the world has shifted. You need to move on and get the correct research that you need for what your buyer is asking for. And if you deal globally, you could have as many requests as there is countries that you deal with. And how many buyers you've got, the requests that come from your buyer depends on their knowledge of this sector as well. And that's why this has become difficult for the manufacturer, difficult for the designer, difficult for the retailer, and difficult for the consumer, because there is so much mixed messages. Okay, so if you're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, that's correct. But it's like, because we're on the era of, even though this has been known, TCF is the second biggest polluting industry in the world. Even though this has been known for a long, long time, there hasn't been action taken to resolve this. But the consumer, which is the end consumer, is now calling and demanding that their retailer has ethical product, has environmental friendly practices, and that they hold accreditation. Okay, so these sorts of things can cause huge economic cost to your business in the future if a country starts returning uncertified or product that is not accredited through an accredited agency. So I suggest that this is something that the Ministry of Textiles or your association can help with, or those that have you can become members of our not-for-profit global community if you want to have access to all of our information as well. So I go back to your potential niche of finding new opportunities for your business is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah.
Every country or every member state to the UN signed up to these goals, and they agreed to meet them by 2030. And many of these goals affect or involved with the TCF sector, the textile and apparel production sector, and labour force. So I encourage you again. I think I've ran over time. Is there any other question? Any other? Yes, I'm involved. Well, congratulations for the person involved with sustainable procedures in the company. This is a never-ending journey. This is not going to be a tick the box and it's all done, because the amount of textiles that are under development of repulping, recycling. The very first recycled polyester came about through the research of Nike when they developed the recycled polyester jerseys for the World Cup as a trial special thing. Now they're mainstreamed and everybody is used to recycled polyester or PET made from plastic bottles, etc., etc. In fact, synthetic fibers, polyester fibers, are the most easiest sustainable because they can just be melted down and used again. It's the mixed fibers that are the hard ones to recycle. All right,
Yes,
and then my next question is my social enterprise is working on SDG 11. Congratulations, and promote that to your community and to your local newspaper and TV station and to your social media networks about the Sustainable Development Goals and what you're working on, because it's education to the customer that is this industry has lacked awareness and education on, not only to its own sector of everybody involved in the manufacturing of textiles, the manufacturing of product, the designers, the retailers and the consumers, but also the community and the family. So I've run over time. Thank you very much. And I appreciate this opportunity to share the global message of fashion sustainability.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ms. Carol. I'll just update your contact details here. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, they can just contact you. Okay.
Okay, I prefer you to use my info address, info@tcfglobal.com.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. No problem. Fine. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good luck for the rest of your conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.